Yo, what's good? Welcome to the Mo Mori Podcast. I'm Tavir Mori,
I'm Sandy Mori.
and this is the Mo Mori Podcast. Yeah, you let me get it off this time for sure. Today, what are we talking about?
You intro it.
Okay, highly debated,
In our household specifically.
often, I don't know.
Often debated, highly debated, often debated.
Often debated. I wanted to say often participated, but that doesn't work. It works like rhyming wise,
Yeah.
but we don't partake. Today we're going to talk about Instagram versus reality and why is it important to understand that Instagram is not real.
Mm-hmm. And
real
why it's
sometimes.
important to show up if you use social media, which you don't have to.
Facts.
But not to be fake on social media.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You're just tired.
So the first one, I think Tavy should jump in because he has a hate relationship with social media.
That's funny, Z.
Thanks.
I've never heard of that before.
I think the one redeeming quality to social media for him, correct me if I'm wrong, is like people, like connecting to people.
You?
What?
I wouldn't have known you if I didn't have social media.
No, I don't think I'm the one redeeming quality. But I appreciate you trying.
Dang, you see?
But in seriousness, I think it's that you actually get to connect with people.
Yeah, for sure. It's a vehicle.
Yeah. And so it's not like throw the whole thing away because you realize that is a vehicle that connects you with people you may not have been able to connect to in other scenarios.
Absolutely.
Everything else, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe post algorithm.
Yeah, like back when I was in high school, maybe
Yeah.
early years of college, because Instagram came out the spring of my senior year. So like I was almost out of high school by the time Instagram came. Thank God. But
because Instagram, well, maybe
it was Twitter or MySpace in middle school, Facebook.
Because like the threat for us growing up with the internet were like chat rooms.
Okay.
Where like adults could be pretending to be kids. And I remember Darius got in trouble once for like talking in a chat room. Nothing happened, but it was a rule like that you couldn't. And he was just like, "Hey, I'm Darius," and the other kid, I think we never knew, was like, "Oh, I'm so and so," and I think that was like the beginning and end of their conversation. But he left the window up, and so mom and dad saw it, and it was like we weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But that was as kind of deep as it went, and obviously that was still a dangerous thing.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people were taken advantage of in that scenario, but it wasn't as stark as like I have a whole different life. Yeah. And I can live in a whole different reality than like the actual reality that we live in.
Yeah.
And like filters weren't a thing, and selfies, you just
face tuning and all that kind of stuff.
We used to put albums up on Facebook, like 67 photos in one post.
Dang.
And it was like a campfire. Yeah. And it was like of the campfire and then of somebody with a campfire.
Mad pixel.
Yeah. So like the whole like I can look like whoever I want to, and I can create this whole side of myself that doesn't actually exist.
Or I can hide behind an account and terrorize people. Crazy.
It just wasn't a thing for us growing, and we're probably the last generation who can say that.
Absolutely.
Because the people right under us had a whole different experience. And then like my parents' age almost are like so removed from it that they probably aren't as emotionally affected as we are because they're not working with social media the same way.
The metrics aren't.
Yeah, my parents are pastors, so it's like they're not on Instagram to promote their services. I mean, maybe, but it's not making or breaking a career choice.
The only people in that generation that are feeling the effects of social media are like business owners. Like, I don't know how to function in this day and age, you know what I'm saying? But they're not like, man, I don't have enough followers, you know what I'm saying?
I did see not Sandra Bullock, Julia Roberts. She made a comment about, she posted, do you know who Emma Roberts is? She was like a Nickelodeon kid. But anyway, nice. She and her niece, who are both actresses, were like at a cabin or something like that. And they went out and took a picture, and she posted it like with my niece. And she didn't have on makeup or anything and got dragged. Like, how dare you, like, why would you post this? You look horrible, like all this stuff. And she was just like, I can't imagine growing up in this generation. Like, she can remember a time before in the same field that she's in.
Right.
And then after.
Man.
Where, like, just posting a family photo once was, like, something that people covet because, like, dang, I wish I had this in a magazine, or I wish I could have been the one to release it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's something to be, like, taunted and, like, made fun of. And she was like, I just felt for every young girl who are growing up trying to do what I'm successfully doing, but with this whole other side of
wrinkle,
it. Yeah. And it just hasn't been around a long time, but it's had such a drastic change in most of our realities.
I took Tri to the park this morning, and we saw a friend from church at the park, and we were talking about social media and just the studies that they've done on like kids and stuff like that. How like nothing ever comes back positive. And I'm under the impression that like, just like how this is kind of like on the other side of it from an attention place. Like, you know how when people use like hard drugs too much, like they kind of like, even if they clean up, they still like burnt some things out. You know what I'm saying? I honestly think there's going to be generations of people that are going to be burnt out.
Yeah.
Because they're done from an attention span place. Like they're just going to be like, I can't sit in one place and focus on something. You know what I mean? And that's really scary. Like that's something that we've had conversations about as far as being like, we don't want Triumph to be an iPad kid. He doesn't have an iPad. We're already being proactive with restricting his screen time. But in order not to have an iPad kid, you can't be like an iPhone parent or like a phone parent. And
Android parent.
You know what I'm saying? But like, I feel maybe within the last couple months, I've been focusing on creating more than producing. Or I mean, producing or creating more rather than consuming. And I can't say that I ever feel good after I'm consuming a bunch of social media stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we love Survivor. I think we've talked about that before.
Survivor.
But watching that show, which is about an hour, if we watch that show and then end up in a conversation about the show or whatever, even that feels different than an hour scrolling.
It's too much.
You know what I mean?
It's a fire hose of information.
Yeah. Because it's not like all of it, anytime you consume, it's bad.
No.
Because I'm like, I grew up watching movies and TV, and there's something different about social media specifically than just entertainment.
But even a movie, it's like, that's an investment of time. Yeah. Like over an hour, you are focused on something. Even if it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Where attention span.
Yeah, where instead it's like literally a flick of a thumb. Like one thumb swipe. Let me see how far one thumb swipe can get me.
You won't even be able to tell.
Yeah, well. Like how many?
I guess I'm thinking about photos. Like on your iPhone, you know.
So I'm on Instagram right now. I have this app. You probably can't see it on the screen, but it kind of like locks me out of social media until like this sequence happens, and then I have to write in something. It says like, what's your intention of opening Instagram this time? And I write something, and then I say, yeah, I want to get in. And then it's like, how much time do you need on Instagram? Be realistic. Give yourself time. Give yourself the time you need to complete the task you have in mind. So like I program this app on all social medias so that I can monitor why I'm actually in these apps. And it keeps you essentially from doom scrolling. So that whole entire sequence happens pretty much every time I open up Instagram, which it gets annoying, but it helps me stay off of it. Okay, so here we go.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just went into 5 different like lanes, less than a second. That rabbit hole and those rabbit holes, and there's this whole entire algorithm that's curated so that I stay there. You know what I mean? And I think that's the difference between like watching a movie and
That's
being.
true. So the danger in it, and we met on social media, so it's not like it's all bad.
But even then, the algorithm was way different.
Yeah, it was very different. But the danger is then comparing your real life to an algorithm.
Or someone's highlight reel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something that I try to be very mindful of, because again, Taylor and I have a very different relationship with social media.
Mm-hmm.
I have met friends through social media. I met my husband through social media. I have a whole business like with guitar lessons and stuff. It's benefited me more than it's harmed me that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I've ever wrestled with like I'm gonna be fake.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like not who I am. So, or like I'm gonna play the game. Like I gotta do, stuff so that people can see me. It's just never really been my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there is, for me, a temptation to look at how somebody else is raising their kid. There is a video of this baby who was like 7 months old or something like that, identifying all of his body parts.
Really?
Yes. Like, where are your eyes? And he was doing it, and everything. And I was like, dang, like.
What'd that make you feel?
Well, at the time, Triumph didn't know he was probably a couple months older than the baby that I saw. And he didn't know it. So I was like, am I behind? Am I specifically in an area where I'm newer? Like, with guitar and with songwriting and stuff, because I've done it so long at this point, I don't as easily fall into comparison. But it's something as new as parenting, where the concrete is still pretty wet. I can definitely fall into like dang, well, they already know how to read. And their kid was reading at 1. You know what I mean? Triumph doesn't really know his letters like that. He can sing the song, but he can't identify them.
Right.
And it makes you feel shame, like as if what you're doing is not good enough.
Right.
And I don't think that is a coincidence or an accident, because the reason you feel shame will end up being the source you go to fulfill not feeling shame. So it's like, well, if I can get Triumph to do something, then maybe I can post him, and then maybe I'll feel validated by the comments, and people will actually see that I am doing a good job, and I can prove that. So then I might take one clip of Triumph identifying his nose on accident and post it so that I could feel better about myself. Again, that's not real. I know it's not real. Thankfully, it's not something that I've actually done with him, but I could see how the temptation is there, to take one clip of somebody else's life, compare it to my entire life, and then try to compete by getting one clip of my life and compete with your entire life, And it's just not healthy. Nothing about the perspective of lack will produce good in you or in us. And I think that social media often highlights lack in your own paradigm, when you compare it to 10 seconds of somebody else's, because you just end up writing the rest of the story. Man, that baby probably she probably started when he was like 5 weeks old. So that's why he knows by the time he's 7 months, because it's just been they probably don't watch any TV. They probably just go over their letter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, actually, the baby's just like very smart.
Facts.
Developed differently. Yeah. And that's just what it was. Yeah. So I think if I had like an Instagram versus reality temptation, Mine would be less about maybe me like trying to look a specific way, but more so like I can't cook that. I don't parent like that. And actually there's a group who I wouldn't say are similar to the band I'm in, but have similarities. I'll say that.
Okay.
And they have different success. We've had beautiful success. I'm so thankful for all God has done for us. And they're in a season where they're having different success than we have had. And that does kind of, I don't know that jealous is the right word, but compare. It's, again, their highlight reel. I'm like, we haven't done that. We have, wow, literally today I was scrolling and saw something and I had to immediately pray. Not because it was like, I'm so angry, but at first I was like, and then I was like, no, bless them.
Yeah. Thank
you for the opportunities they're getting. There's room for everybody. I don't compete. And thank you, Lord. And then kept going. But sometimes it feels like with social media, you're kind of putting yourself in the battlefield.
Yeah.
To have to do that in order to be a healthy person.
And that's literally the reason why I don't be on there. And it's not to be like, oh, I'm not going on there because it's too much for me. It's just like, why would I like vex myself? That's it. Honestly, going on social media for me, I just feel like it's like the easiest way to become vexed. And I just don't enjoy doing that to myself. Nor do, like, I'm, as a creative, like, I'm under the impression that the inspiration is off the web. Like, yeah, you could catch a cool, like, vibe or inspo, whatever, on social media from someone that's doing something. But guess what? There's a million other eyeballs that are looking at the exact same thing, which is why everybody's on the same wave. But when somebody pops out and you're like, yo, who is this dude? 9 times out of 10, they don't be like active on social media like that. You know what I'm saying? They be outside. And
you just gotta, it's so, I'm thinking of the word cluster, but that's not the word I want. Congested.
Yeah.
That it's hard to even take in the amount of information. You end up feeling drained by just your brain trying to keep up. And on the other side of it, of the argument, I am so inspired by people's joy. Like in my algorithm a lot, and some of these could be fake videos, I understand. But are people who don't have and somebody blesses them with money or a car or something like that. Our kids, I intentionally went and unfollowed a bunch of things and followed things to tell my algorithm what to send me. So I get a lot of like Black family, positive family content where it's like, you know, they're just, what's his name? Belief, but he goes by, think of it.
His name's Belief?
Yeah, but Josiah knows him. He lives out in California. Black parents, Black family.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, but I can't think of their names, but just like joy. And that is something that I love that I have access to, is somebody's story that I would have never known about. But they're also, you can feel the difference when it's real versus when it's like put on. And so I think our response to what feels like kind of like a lot of negativity on social media is stuff like this. And like, I think for those of us who have an awareness of how toxic it can be, we then have a responsibility to, if you're on it, no, I don't think you have a responsibility to be on social media.
You don't.
But if you want to engage, then engage with light. And don't fall into the trap of the comparison game. Because a lot of people too, like, never post, but they're still always
be on there.
Yeah. And it's messing with their mind and mess with,
I see you lurking. Hey, go light something though.
Yeah. And not, you don't have to engage, but I'm saying you do have responsibility to like guard your gates, and not get caught up
That's
in
a fact.
the battle of like your mind essentially, and how you can be tainted and manipulated. And I'm even thinking about like, to each his own, this is not a judgment, but the amount of how plastic surgery or different things, specifically with women and men.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'll think about like older movies, so like early 2000s, and how it was like almost like a joke or a secret to get things manipulated on your body. Work done on you. Now it's so common.
Yeah.
Like it's like, this is my girl, this is, she does this. And I'm like, when did this happen? Where it's like we were no longer good enough as is. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't do those things. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. I do think that the amount of access that we have to the way people look, and the fact that we want to look like them and not like ourselves has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Even in our physical bodies, like in our desire to look different.
Yeah. But you like, not in defense, but like on the other side of the coin, you're just like we were talking about, you're getting these messages blasted at you day in and day out. And it's like, if I can alter the way that I look, or maybe like the whole Ozempic thing, like cats out here really taking drugs to get skinny. Like I feel the desire to like look slim and fit, like that's cool, but also like at the expense of what, you know what I mean?
Right. Something that I've seen on social media that's brought me a lot of joy recently, it's actually something that Tavia posted, which was your poem.
Oh, the blue? I don't know what that is. It's just like a thing. It's sounds. It's music. It's music.
Music. Yeah. It's like a rap?
I guess you could call it a poetry rap.
Okay.
I was thinking on some like
if you haven't seen it, I would go and look at it.
Thank you.
Just go to his page.
I'm gonna release it.
You're gonna let me set this up?
Or... Oh dang, I'm sorry.
The reason that I love it, and I've been telling him this, obviously it could seem like I'm biased, and I'm not. I am.
Are you sure about that?
I am a little, but not in the sense of like, for better or for worse, I don't know how you feel about this.
Okay.
But I'm not like the wife that's just like, everything you do, I'm like, oh my gosh, just because you did it, it's perfect.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that.
Yeah. I'm not that kind of person in general. But this piece of art just felt very like real and authentic and honest, and in the world in which we're talking about, where there's a lot of I won't even say fake, but just angled art, I'll say, like it's for a purpose of getting something from you. This felt just like a pure offering where somebody could receive something that was cool, and it just reflected who you actually are, in the way that you actually think, in the way that you actually talk, in the way that you actually like dress, and like nothing was strategy. It all was just you. And I obviously connect with that as your wife, but also as a consumer. The things that I'm leaning into on social media are people just being themselves and being brave enough to do it in a world that kind of always wants to change you into something else. Which is why even the Instagram versus reality thing is a thing, because there is a standard of being one way on social media and then one way in real life. So like, what courage it takes to be the same way in both worlds. That's what I picked up from that piece.
Oh, thanks, babe. And I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And he's gonna release it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have you ever heard like Def Poetry Jam? Like, I was thinking like if I had to write for that.
Cool.
But something that's been really sticking with me as of late is the Proverbs, the commit thy works unto the Lord and he shall establish your thoughts. And that was just me doing that. You know what I'm saying? And being like, okay, like I'm doing this to glorify you, and I am not creating from any other angle. And I'm not even creating from an angle. I'm just creating with the gifts and the talents that he's given to me.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever message you want, I'm going to do that thing without any informing of like, well, the algorithm does this, or like this will actually look this better this way. And I think that's why maybe it was as like,
have you normal. I'll be the interviewer for the listeners, obviously know the question, the answer.
Okay.
Have you always created from that place?
No.
When would you
No.
When would you say you just look like your sister?
Which one, Tamara?
Yeah. She would do that.
Yeah.
When would you say the change happened and why?
The change has been like within the last month, 2 months. Whenever I started getting off of social media, or getting more into film stuff, I think I was really operating from this place of like desiring to be seen, desiring to be validated, desiring to be acknowledged, valued. I was always creating from a place of like trying to prove something, prove something to someone else. When in reality, I was trying to prove something to myself.
Can I ask a question about that? Were you always aware of that?
No.
How do you feel like you became that seems like a hard thing to become aware of.
I think I became aware of it when it was revealed to me how broken I am. And in that brokenness, there's the surrendering. And the thing about prolonged surrender is you got a whole lot of stuff to carry, to hand over. And it's like there's an awareness of what you're giving over. You're like, oh, this, all right, you know what I'm saying? This plant, like, okay. So after I had moved quite a bit of things and I finally placed my hands on it, I was like, oh, how deep is this root? And then you're like, oh, this is really ugly. And then you keep going down even deeper and you're like, yikes. You know what I mean?
This is where I'm creating from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said like 2 months ago you started doing more film stuff, and that's where kind of the blue piece of art, I'll just call it a piece of art.
Okay. And working at the Frisk has given me like a lot of, if y'all don't know. I art handle part-time at the Frisk Museum. It's like a museum in Nashville where like I decommission installations and also put up installations of art. So if I'm doing that, I'm in a museum.
Yeah.
For like
literally.
Yeah, I'm like for real in a museum touching art. Like I can for real touch art because I'm an art handler. Sorry.
Y'all can't do that because you're not art handlers, because I can.
When you go into a museum, you can't touch the art. Neither can I, because like, but when I'm working, I can. Anyway, I'm literally in a museum all day, and that stuff just starts to wear on you. You know what I mean?
Which is cool to think about. What you were talking about from a creative standpoint. Creation often comes off of social media.
Yeah.
But the effects are very similar.
Yeah.
So when you're on social media, this stuff wears on you. Oh no, I don't have that. I don't do that. I'm not around that. I don't have that kind of money. When you're off of social media, the effects are the same. I'm around art all the time. Wow, I've never thought about that color palette. I've never seen it like that.
Yeah.
Now my eyes have been open to different things that I wouldn't have seen if I was
absolutely
always just looking down.
Yeah. And then like honestly, it says in the word that like the earth is filled with God's glory,
Mm-hmm.
and we are God's glory.
Mm-hmm.
So being in community or proximity with any person that is in the image and likeness of God, that is just like brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
Just within and of that fact, that's brilliance. So when I'm at work and I'm crossing paths with people I never would talk to,
Mm-hmm.
I'm inspired just by what's going on in their heads.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I've seen a shift, obviously from a very different vantage point than any of you guys will, being his wife. But I do think it's important because I had a friend of mine message me the other day, not even about the blue one, but Tavia had posted a piece of content. I think it was just
it was just some like chop footage.
Yeah, just him creating. And she was like, I've never seen him in this light before. Like, he looks like he's creating from a whole different place. Like, not to be seen, but to just share or to be known. I can't remember the exact verbiage that she said. But I say that to say, when we, as God's creation, submit to him and not to social media, since that's the topic, but there's lots of other things in there. We do begin to look like him instead of trying to look like the world. I say the world, not in a sinner saint way, literally just in what comes from the social media bucket of what I do have and what I don't have and all of that. And it's evident, like, something that we very quickly agreed on in our relationship was like, we're never going to do the fake thing on social media. Like, if we're beefing in real life, I'm not going to post that he's the sun and the stars and the moon. Not because I don't think that it's true in totality, but it just is a fake offering. Nobody asked. So I don't have to come up with an answer and be like, well, yeah, you are the best. Let's resolve in real life. And probably never address it on social media. No. This is probably the most vulnerable we've ever been publicly. I've written a handful of things about our relationship on social media if I'm feeling led to, but it's always also with his permission and his checkpoint. Years ago, like, it'll be like wedding season or something, and I would write something about how God was working in us, and I'd be like, are you okay with this? Because I realize I'm offering something that's actually happening in our world. I'm not like presenting something that's not real. And ultimately, I think we all should be aware that we have the same ability to be honest. And we have the same brilliance to offer. Like Tabor was just saying, like, the earth is full of his glory. Like, we are the glory of God. And we are shortchanging each other by not showing up that way. And that doesn't mean perfect or, without flaw. That means real and vulnerable and actually showing up as who we are and who we're created to be, instead of a version of ourselves that we think is probably more likable, or a version of ourselves that might get more likes, or a version of ourselves that maybe more people will relate to this part. It's like, the reason that I love, I follow a lot of Asian food, like blogs and things.
Hey, the food on social media though, that's a whole nother story. I'll be tapped in.
It's like a travel show.
Oh yeah, I need that for real. Except when you eat something terrible and then you're just going crazy.
It's like
Sorry.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich is not hidden. The reason that it's so, I lean in so much is because I don't have it. Like, I don't have access to that here. So I'm like, dang, in New Zealand they do X, Y, and Z, or or in wherever, China, they made this kind of a thing. And there is something new that somebody's offering me that I'm like, I gotta try it. And like, we all have that ability in showing up as ourselves. Where there's something that Tavor has that, like, I don't have. So when he actually when I have real access to who he is, I lean in because I'm like, that's cool. I don't have that, but I would like access to it. And I think that's what we forfeit when we play the game of Instagram versus reality. Like who I actually am versus who I am online. And again, like we've talked about in other podcasts, there's a difference between like privacy and boundaries. But for those of us who do post and and I'm not saying who have a following, I'm saying if you ever have been online and ever have posted a photo, you just never know who's watching.
That's a fact.
Because we may not all have like numbers, but we all have influence.
Yeah.
And what we do with that is important. So just show up for real. It's way more interesting anyway than playing the game. And playing the game will run you dry.
That's a fact.
And
it's a marathon, yo. I don't know if it was you that said this, but however you get there is how you'll leave. Or how you'll stay there.
How you'll stay there, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if you have aspirations of doing something and you're cutting corners getting there, you're doing things not the 100 kind of way. Like you're gonna have to keep doing that to maintain that place. But if you're just thorough from the jump and being who you are, being honest, and you don't low key, if you switch up, that's where you know what I'm saying. So just be you. Just keep it 100.
And I'm thinking specifically about artists and creatives and those of us who use social media as part of our business.
Yeah.
Like, we get it. I think the thing I want y'all to know is we're not that removed. Like we are very much. Again, I'm very thankful for all the opportunities that we both have had. And I'm not saying like we've never, we're just starting out. Like we've done this for a minute, and we all have had to change with the algorithm.
Absolutely.
We all have had to learn the new methods of how to reach people, how to reach our followers. We all have had to figure out what song connects, what piece of art connects, how do I get this to the people that I want, how do I make this move the needle? Like you're just, there are the 1%ers who no longer have to play the game. And then there's the rest of us, and it feels very tempting to sacrifice authenticity for perceived success. And it's just not worth it. Like, be you, be smart. It's a business, like be wise. Something that I love about Tavia is his measure of excellence. Like, he's like, there is a way to be who I am, 100% who God called me to be. And that includes excellence. So if I'm putting something on social media, it's not because I don't think it looks good. It's not like, well, I'm going to be out into, I'm going to just throw it up here. It's like, no, like he spends time crafting this piece of art so that when it's presented, people can connect to it in the way that he wants them to, My brother's the same way, who does most of our all of our visuals and things for our band. So there is still a tending to the art that you can have, and a care and a love about what things look like without changing yourself to try to fit into a box. So, I mean, that's probably a different conversation for the artist specifically, for the creative.
Facts.
But we're trying to figure it out as well. We made this set so that it could look good.
Yeah.
Like we were going to do a podcast and we're like, cool, what do we want it to look like? What does it look like on social media? What is it, when people scroll, what will make them stop? What is sticky about it? Like us having the Maury name in the back is not thought about, like it's strategy, and it's from a business perspective. But from the identity perspective, it should never be a strategy.
Facts.
Who am I going to present as? Who am I going to be today? That is just who you are. Always be who you are in identity, and let the strategy come from a place of wisdom on how to present who you are, not how to change who you are.
That's fire.
Thanks.
on that note, this has been another episode of the Momoi Podcast. Thank you so much for pulling up. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that great stuff. To continue the conversation in the comment section, so we can have a more communal effect.
Such a long outro.
Hey, if they made it this far, like,
yeah, no, that's good.
We appreciate you. Love. Peace.